as I best can recall, and I've taxed my directors in that area, was the rear show barn. That's the tallest building in the back, and that was built approximately 20 plus years ago. The original front was built around 1971, and Mr. Jackson tells me in 1972, that was the first year he showed in that building. So that's about the time when the front was built, and I remember my son showing in that facility in 1985. About the same time, the building to the rear was built, and then about 10-15 years ago, a concerted effort between the show barn, the show committee, and the YCB group, that's the Y'all Come Back Fall Classic, who has a prospect show every October, put together money, and we closed in between the two barns. So that breezeway was dry when the steers or goats or lambs were coming to the show ring. Since that time, the improvements that have been made to the barn, number one was the hog wash rack. That's in the hog area where the hog pens are, and that was paid for YCB. The cattle wash rack outside on the west side was also an improvement, and that was paid by YCB. The show ring panels and the announcer stand that is presently there was also paid by YCB. So, and also the cattle panels that the cattle are tied to is another endeavor and payment by YCB. Without that partnership, there would be little improvements, and I believe the hog panels have been there at least 20 plus years, and they need upgrading. In our negotiations with the show barn, we have cut back, or want to cut back, with what we are paying them, because all we have seen, and you have seen, and most of us can testify, is improvement on the front of the show barn, which is the banquet hall. Improvements in that area do not help you, in my opinion, and my director's opinion. The banquet hall facility was just as fine as the way it was. A kitchen was added, and bathrooms to the side of the kitchen that one remodel job was done. Then there was a remodel job of the kitchen, and the bathrooms were moved to a storage area off to the west side. There has been some improvement in the floor, and I'm assuming some improvement in the walls and cleaning of the. That's why we don't want to pay as much as what we have in the past. We're putting all the money in, and they incurred a debt about 7 years ago that we were totally unaware of. There was still debt on that back barn, and we were told that's going to be paid off in 4 to 5 years. We have continuously been the focus point on what we wanted to pay them to get their debt cleared. And then we find out the debt still goes on and on and on and never stops.
So is that debt our responsibility? I mean, it is their debt. We do run the facility. I think we need to go on if that is their debt, why should we be held accountable for paying that debt for this committee here?
Good question.
The cleanup, that's the restrooms and the trash that the lady picks up. We don't get no money to clean up, lady who gets the money.
Sir, what we're talking about here is the actual debt y'all have acquired. You know, I guess there's a feel of obligation that we have to rent this facility to pay, and there's no improvements being done. You know, and that's how I'm listening to you guys. But this is a lot of money. $23,000 is a lot of money for a week of get together for this whole community. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things in this list that I really think need to be looked over. You know, or we need to make a decision as a county to find a better facility to accommodate our kids.
Thank you very much. Judge Jackson, do you recall?
It's all go for the.
Just
for
one.
kids.
The front was the first barn to be built. Was there a board? The Optimus Club was in Wilson County, were the first people that got together to form a livestock show and get some money together. Though all those individuals went and borrowed money and personally signed a note that they would guarantee repayment to the bank for the facilities they were building.
So we had one group of people, not two groups like we have now. Or
That's correct, one group.
do you think we got away from that now, going in two groups, and we're trying to run it two different ways? Because it's for the kids.
Yes, I've asked the same question, and when it's split and why it's split, I have not found an answer yet.
I just hope we can bring it back, and I want to thank both groups for coming here, the Showborn Committee and the Livestock. I just hope y'all can meet for the kids. We got to find a way to bring it back. If the land was donated back in or the family did it back in the late 60s, early 70s, it was donated it was for the kid, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Let's try a way to get together and bring it back to the kids.
At what price? Is it?
On the Optus Club, I think 2 surviving members are Jerome Clear and I think Doc Bublo, the only 2 members left on the Optus Club.
Yes, sir, you're correct. I've tried to make a call to Dr. Brumlow. I get stopped by his wife, which is fine. I mean, she has a reason to curtail the questions to him. He has problems hearing from what one of my directors says. I have talked to John Fleer to ask Jerome about any encouragement what happened there. For whatever reason, Mr. Fleer is not in great health, and John's curtailing my questions, which is fine. I understand that. I do the same for my parents, and we're in failing health.
There's been a lot of arithmetic here. You can add, I know. 10 days of back
I have to
barn,
take off my boots.
10 days of back barn, $900, $9,000 where I went to school in Garden City. Correct? And they went up to 1,300 for the front barn now. And how many days we use it for?
3.
What's 13 times 3? 3,900, right? Add those 2 numbers, and where I went to school with all my feet and toes, 12,900. So where did the lady come up with 20,000?
You're missing the point. When I was handed the numbers, it was said for 10 days.
Okay, but that's renegotiation. Renegotiation.
That was the last piece of paper I had.
Okay. But renegotiate the barns
This
and
is
the
the
barn?
first time I've heard of this. I mean, y'all are drilling me on this, but this is actually the first time I've ever heard that.
Well, I've been on this committee for a long time myself, and from day one, it's always been said we could rent the place a hell of a lot cheaper. I think you said you offered 16. That is, in my arithmetic, $3,100 more. So that pays a lot towards.
You're stuck on the 9 days here, 3 days there.
That's why I said they need to renegotiate with that and see if it comes up. And I think it's a done deal.
So therefore, they had to pay for that building. They went to the bank and borrowed money for that building. Just like they're doing now, they're going to the bank and borrow to improve their facilities, which we understand. We would continue, and have most agreement from my directors, we would continue at our past rate if they would tear down something and build something other than the front building. But they have tonight, they have not have a projected plan of where they're going, what they're going to do, or a timeline of when that's going to happen. So if they're not going to use the money that we have been given them in the past, we have a use for that money. And that's why we have offered them less money this year, because our hog pens are in shambles, our goat show is increasing, and we need more pens for those 2 species. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna get off that horse. I wanna know something about, and it's expenses from gifts to buyers to hospitality to buyers. That's $10,000. Why that much?